rocker. What I want to do today is share with you about how to write your memoir. A memoir is a story about an event that changed the direction of your life. It's not the whole life. But first of all, let me tell you a little bit about me. I was a scientist. I'm not your typical author, but a lot of my past jobs involved writing. And when I thought about retirement, I realized, writing is the part of every job I've had that I like the best. And so I now write full-time, and it is my retirement gig. The fun thing is, because it is that, I don't have to obey the rules. I write in a lot of different genres and on a lot of different topics. And so my blog is called Rambling Ruminations, if you want to look that up. But the question is, so why would you write a memoir? The reason is because there may be family who want to read it, although the bad news is quite often your family won't read what you write. Just ask any author. Their families are the most reluctant to read what they write. But there are other people who could benefit from your experience. All of us learn lessons in life, and this is a way that you could pass that knowledge on to other people. For example, my mother cooperated with me in writing Brave Face, and that is the story of her growing up during World War II as not a Jewish child and not someone who was destined for the camps. The message she wanted to pass on is that all children suffer during a war. So let's start with the writing process. You have an idea, you have something in your life that you want to write about, that you want to tell people about what happened. Well, some people like to write without any direction. They just want to start. And that's called a pantser. Others want to plan every single detail of what they write. That's called a plotter. Usually the best writers are going to be somewhere in between. You need to decide, how true is it going to be? If you're going to be writing about people who are still alive, maybe you want to change their names. Maybe you want to change the place. You might even want to use a pseudonym. If it's historical, make sure you do your research. It is very disturbing when one is reading something historical where the person gets something very basic about that time period wrong. For myself, when I did the research on book Unforgivable, I found some fascinating things. I found out why some of the children in a home that was raided by Nazis were not taken away. I also found why the nurses were not taken away by the Nazis, even though they'd been hiding Jewish kids. Lots of interesting stuff to be discovered. You also might want to decide, okay, what is the format of this book going to be? Am I going to do flashbacks? How is it going to be told? What voice are you going to use? Are you going to have the protagonist tell the story, first person? Or are you going to use third person, where the narrator says what's happening? Is it going to be third person omniscient, where you actually know what is happening in the characters' heads? Or is it going to be limited? Or is it going to just be third person, where people have to figure out what the characters are thinking by what they do? Right now, it's very popular to hop from person to person. That's another alternative you could use in telling your story. Well, once you have written the book, don't think you're done. You've only just started. Rewrites happen. Not only that, they are necessary. If you've ever read a book where there's a typo on the first page or even in the dedication, it's really annoying, and sometimes you just put the book down. If there's 5 typos on the first page, just don't bother. It is very important to rewrite your book and to edit it and re-edit it and then read it aloud and then edit it again, then ask truthful friends about it and then edit it again. Just writing the book, that's only the very tiny first part. Maybe 5% of the process. There's a long way to go. One of the reasons I'm doing this video is so that you can learn the easy way what I learned the hard way. So in writing your book, one of the things that you should do is to join a writer's group. I actually have joined several, and I found the one that is most beneficial for me is the Virginia Writers Group. But you may find that a different group helps you. Some groups are very large, some are very small. Make sure that the group you're in contains writers that have actually published. A group that only has people who wish they would write a book is not going to give you a lot of information. The other thing that's very important to do is to take some online classes in writing. Most of us, if we took creative writing when we were in high school, have forgotten what we learned. Do you know what a story arc is? Do you know that your chapter endings need to make the person want to read or the next chapter? Do you know that the first page should grab the reader and not let them go? All those things are things you can learn through taking online classes. Another thing is writers frequently fall into the error of telling people the story rather than showing them the story. It's very important for the person who is reading the book to think they're actually there. One of the books that I found very helpful in learning how to write is Saves the Cat Writes a Novel. It's a weird title, but I recommend the book. And then another very helpful thing I found was Grammarly. When writing, it's easy to miss a period, put an extra comma in, get your grammar a little bit wrong. Grammarly will sort that stuff out for you. It will show you anywhere where your writing is not grammatical. You may not want to pay attention to what it's saying because maybe in that particular place an incomplete sentence does what you want it to, but mostly it's going to be helpful to use an aid like that. Once you've written the book, you need to think about the parts of the story that are not actually the story. For example, the cover. It is very important to have a beautiful cover because a lot of people do judge books by their cover. If you think about it, probably you do too. How do you get a really great cover without spending a fortune? Here's a tip. Use freelancer.com. There you can describe your book, you can give a suggestion, and you can run a contest. For a contest where the prize is only $50, you can get 100 entries from people who want to design the cover of a book and just want to have it on their resume. The cover of Unforgivable was the result of a freelancer contest, and that book stops people in their tracks and it sells. Another thing you want to do before you publish the book is get a bunch of people on your side. Write to your friends, write to people who might be interested in the topic of the book, and get their input as advance praise. Send them a pre-publication copy of the book and have them praise it, so you can put that at the beginning of the book. Ask also those people to be early reviewers, to read the book and to review it early. If you can get 10 reviews in the first week of that book being out, that makes a big difference to sales. You need 50 reviews for Amazon to show the book to people who are searching for it. Write the front and back matter, the preface, etc. Decide what format you want it to be and then format it. And then finally, if you want to indie publish, upload it. Okay. What about this publication? Do you want an agent? Do you want to go traditional? Do you want to go with a hybrid publisher? Or do you want to do it yourself? Let's look at that. So there are 3 ways of publishing. The first is traditional. In traditional publishing, you are looking for a traditional publisher, one who might give you an advance. Preferably, you're going to go for one of the top 5 publishers. In order to get this, you need to write a query letter, which is a 1-page letter that shows off your writing skills and makes an agent excited about what you are writing. In order to query agents, I recommend Query Tracker. There you can put in the genre of your book and you can find out which agents are interested in that genre, and then you send them exactly what they want. It is a very time-consuming and discouraging process. You can expect to query 200 or more agents before you get a bite. And even then, you might not, or you might. If you're writing nonfiction, you need to write a proposal. That's going to be 20 pages. Another option is to go hybrid. This is for those authors who maybe have never published before, and maybe their book would not attract an agent, not necessarily because it isn't good, but because it is not what is selling now. Memoirs, unless you are famous, don't sell, and they don't attract agents. A hybrid publisher, you will need to write them a query letter, and then you will need to pay them. They say, okay, you pay me and I will publish your book, and then we will split the profits. They will indeed provide you with an editor, with a cover designer, and it may be good and it may not be. They will not do publicity for you. You will have to sell the book yourself. So you will end up paying them between $3,000 and $6,000. And you will end up doing the vast majority of the work. Also, hybrid publishers, they are known being vanity publishers. That is, some of them will accept anything. Not all, but some do. And people know which ones those are. So I would say buyer beware with a hybrid publisher. Maybe don't go that route. And the final option is indie publishing, or do it yourself the whole way. With this, you are going to need to get the cover designer. I already told you how you can do that. You're going to need to hire an editor and make sure that you do. You can do the copy editing just simply by using Grammarly. You will want to get your own ISBN. Do not be fooled into getting a free ISBN from Amazon, because that tells everybody that you did it yourself. So don't do that. Buy your ISBNs from Bowker. Then upload to Ingram Spark. Why? Because Ingram Spark has a very wide distribution. You also then are allowed, if you have that funding, to send the book yourself to a printer and get a whole bunch of copies cheap. That's assuming you have a warehouse to store everything you're going to need to buy in order to get a good price on printing. But anyway, Ingram Spark and Bowker are the way to go if you want to do indie publishing. Is it hard to format a book? Nah, you can do it in Word. I did it. It's not very difficult. Don't let them scare you. Well, plan about a week after publication to have a book launch. Ask your social groups to host it. Here you see a book launch that I had at my mother's church, and it was to launch the coquel to the book about her life, detailed in Brave Face, Unforgivable, which is about my father's life in the occupied Netherlands. Provide snacks because it's a party. Your book is done. It's out. People can buy them. Do a short talk, do a reading from your book, and then be prepared to sell and sign books. It's a great way to start your book off. Think about having more than one book launch. I have friends in several towns, and so I had a book launch in all of them, and that will give you a better start on your book. The least favorite part of almost every author's job is sales and marketing. But the problem is, if you want people to read your books, they have to know about it. And the only way they're going to know about it is if you tell them. You could expect your friends to tell them, and they will to a certain degree, but if you want it out there, you are the one who has to do it. The first thing most authors do is put up a website. You can either have somebody else do it for you, or you can figure it out yourself. I find using Bluehost works, and then I downloaded Elegant Themes by Divi and found it really was just a point and shoot thing. It wasn't very hard to design a website. So try it out if you have any technical abilities. If not, you'll have to pay someone. The next thing is get on social media. Which social media you choose really depends on the type of book you have and on the audience you are expecting to attract. Probably it's going to be difficult to maintain all social media, so Choose one or two. Another thing that is very important to have is an email newsletter. Your followers are going to want to know what's going on in your life, and they are also going to want to know when is your next book coming out. They're going to want to see previews of it. Be sure that you engage with your followers in this way. It could be every month, it could be every week, it could be every 3 months. That's up to you. Also, be sure to court speaking engagements. Be available to speak at book clubs. Be available to teach. Also, look for local book fairs and local events where you can be selling your books. I find my books sell best in person. Here are some links that might be helpful to you. Constant Contact, that's how I do my email book marketing. Linktree is a great way for people to find all of your social media via the same link. So check that out. Okay, well, those are all the tips I have for you for now. Keep a lookout for my future videos on other topics.